Let's begin with Introduction to Meat. This unit will be focusing on the composition as well as the structure of meat to help you understand. Of fat in meat, marbling and fat cap. Marbling is quantities of soft white fat. In general, types of meat in the red meat category are red before and sometimes after cooking. The reason meats such as beef, lamb, and venison are red is because they are high in protein called myoglobin. This is an iron-rich protein that gives certain types of meat their red color. Protein meat, or pork meat rather, is also classified as red meat because it contains higher levels of myoglobin than the white meat such as chicken. Pork is lighter in color than beef and becomes very light when cooked, but it is still red meat. Red meat usually contains more saturated fat than white meat and therefore it has more calories. In terms of purchasing meat, there are several factors that you need to consider. Try to imagine that you have been given the job of buying meat for a food service operation. And let's say it's your first time. Probably you might have questions such as where would you begin, what cuts would you ask for, or how would you know the quality of the meats? There are several factors to consider when it comes to purchasing meat. First, the menu and the meats that will fit with those recipes, the cooking methods to be used. Always keep in mind, dear students, that there are fabricated cuts available in the market and one of which goes well with a specific dish or recipe. Using a specific method of cooking, it can be moist heat method or dry heat method. Therefore, before purchasing, always check the recipe. Another factor to consider is the price. For example, how much can your customers afford and how much is your food service operation willing to pay for top quality meats. And quality and value. To assist in making quality meat purchases, many food service operations use guides such as the Meat Buyer's Guide. This guide provides institutional meat purchase specifications for quality meats and photos of various meat cuts to help ensure that meat purchases are consistent in quality and cut. Now let's talk about meat inspection and grading. In 1906, under U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt and the U.S. federal government passed the Meat Inspection Act. This law requires the inspection of all meats that are transported across state lines. It also requires the federal government to inspect animals before slaughter and carcasses after slaughter, establishes sanitation standards for meat processing plants, and allows the government to routinely monitor the activities of these plants. Here in the Philippines, July 2003 Republic Act number 9296 ordained the Meat Inspection Code of the Philippines. This guarantees that the meat is wholesome and that the animal was not diseased, and therefore the meat to be produced are good for consumption. These are the examples of meat inspection stamp. The first one is the stamp used on canned and packaged meat products that have met the federal inspection standards. These are examples of stamp in US issued by the USDA. The second picture is the stamp used on fresh and cured meat to indicate that it is or it has met the federal inspection requirements for wholesomeness. It is put on a small primal cuts but may not appear on every retail cut. In terms of meat grading, meat is graded to indicate its quality. And this grading program is completely voluntary to meat industry which pays for the service. Keep in mind, dear students, that the meat inspection is required and the meat grading is completely voluntary. It's up to the meat industry if they want to have this grading program. And this grading is usually done within 24 hours of slaughtering and inspection. Some meat producers and processors use their own criteria to grade meats. In United States Department of Agriculture grading shield stamp, it indicates how tender and how flavorful the meat will be when it is prepared. Meat is graded for both quality and yield. Different types of meat have different criteria. However, a piece of beef is not evaluated for the same feature as a piece of mutton. In general, however, USDA graders usually check for color, texture, firmness, marbling, and age of the animal. As mentioned earlier, grades indicate the quality of a piece of meat. In the United States Department of Agriculture, the quality grades for beef are the following. We have the prime, choice, and select. Under select, we have standard, commercial, utility, cutter, and canner. In USDA, pork is not quality graded because the quality is always uniform. In veal, we have prime, choice, good, standard, and utility. Lamb, we have prime, choice, good, and utility. Quality grading is a means to measure differences in the quality of the meat you purchase. This type of grading shows meat's tenderness, juiciness, and flavor. The quality grades are different for each type of meat. USDA prime meats are used in the very best food service establishments. These meats are also the most expensive. For a meat product to receive a USDA prime grade, it must have excellent marbling and a thick layer of fat cap. The choice grade is more widely accepted in the food service industry. It is the grade most preferred by consumers because of its flavor and tenderness. It is also a great value. The select grade has very little marbling. It is usually purchased by food service operations concerned about keeping costs down. In the Philippines, we have this Philippine National Standard or the PNS on live grading for slaughter cattle, which is a collaborative effort from the Department of Agriculture Interagency spearheaded by the Bureau of Animal Industry and the Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Product Standards. In terms of grading, cattle are being assessed in body score. We have the BS1, which is characterized by good fat and muscle covering indicated by a smooth rounded appearance throughout the body. We also have BS2, which has a moderate fat and muscle covering indicated by angular and more irregular appearance than BS1. BS3 has lesser fat and muscle covering than BS2 indicated by prominent body structures. There is also a yield grade, which measures the amount of usable meat on beef and lamb. The best grade is yield grade 1 and the lowest is yield grade 5. This means that meat has been marked yield grade 1 will contain a good amount of usable muscle. If you purchase a piece of beef that is marked yield grade 5, it probably has a large amount of fat